On Thai PBS World Tonight, Paetongtarn Shinawatra officially becomes Thailand's 31st Prime Minister. With the new government in place, the digital wallet scheme may need to be reviewed. And Thaksin attends pre-trial hearing in lèse majesté case. Very good evening, and you're watching Thai PBS World Tonight. I'm Nat Bunak. Thailand has finally got a new prime minister who is also the second female country leader and also the youngest leader in Thai political history. Thai Party leader Paetongtarn Shinawatra has finally been appointed as the new prime minister of Thailand following the granting of royal assent by His Majesty the King.
First, I'd like to thank the elected members of Parliament for their trust. I'm deeply committed to serving as Prime Minister to the best of my ability. I also extend my gratitude to former Prime Minister Thaksin for his dedication and tireless work. While I didn't plan to take on this role initially, I want to assure everyone that I am fully prepared and determined. The role of Prime Minister carries immense responsibility, and I'm focused on addressing the pressing issues facing our country, particularly improving the lives of our citizens.
And that was Paetongtarn's very first speech in English as the new Prime Minister of Thailand, as she vowed to lead the country with determination to improve the livelihoods of the Thai people. Paetongtarn also mentioned in her speech that she aims to push for policies such as economic reforms, improving access to healthcare, enhancing digital infrastructure, and also to promote Thailand's soft power, which is what the Thai Party has been trying to do. The ceremony was held yesterday morning, where former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, as well as several senior members of the Thai Party and some of the caretaker ministers were present at the ceremony as well. And among the most touching moments yesterday was when Paetongtarn embraced her father before she walked into the building for the ceremony. And this is something that we don't get to see very often, because her father, who's a former prime minister, now seeing his daughter becoming the prime minister herself. And this is one of the moments that many people have been talking about yesterday. And considering that Paetongtarn is the third Shinawatra to lead the country, many critics have speculated whether Thaksin will ever have a position in the government, to which the answer is quite obvious, that he will still have a huge influence over the government and in Thai politics, even without a formal position. Some critics even speculated that he might be chosen as the advisor to the prime minister. Regardless of these speculations, Paetongtarn denied that she will be controlled or dominated by Thaksin, insisting that she's independent and has her own opinions. However, she does admit, though, that she does consult Thaksin, as they have mutual respect for each other's opinions. And when asked whether Thaksin will be given any of the posts in the government, Paetongtarn said that she has not thought about that issue yet, and she would also have to consider the legal implications as well. Meanwhile, Thaksin told reporters that he does not need to be an official advisor to the prime minister, because obviously he's Paetongtarn's father and she can always call him for advice. He also denied having any role in the formation of the new government, saying that the matter rests with the current prime minister, and he also offered his assurance that Paetongtarn's political career will not end up like his. Just to give you a reminder, though, that Thaksin, back when he was the country's leader, he was ousted in 2006 because of a military coup, while Paetongtarn's aunt Yingluck Shinawatra also faced the same fate when she was in power, because she was ousted by a military coup as well in 2014. And now that there is a new prime minister, there are also speculations about the new cabinet ministers as well, which is yet to be formed. And there is some guesswork at the moment as to who will be included in the new cabinet and who will be removed. It is reported that Finance Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra may lose his job and may be replaced by his duty Jolapan Wiwat of the Pheu Thai Party. And this is just one of the examples that were mentioned in the Thai media. But as for the seat allocation at the moment, the 17 seats in the cabinet will still be for the Pheu Thai Party, 8 seats for the Phumjai Thai Party, 4 seats each for the United Thai Nation Party and the Palang Pracharat Party, and also 1 seat each for Chat Thai Patana and the Prachachat parties, and all of this is in the same coalition. But then there are some speculations, though, as to who will be included. And regardless of all of these speculations, Paetongtarn told reporters this morning that whoever is on the new cabinet list, they will have to review their backgrounds and qualifications for each of the ministers so that they can avoid repeating the same mistake. And this came after Sethar Thavisin was ousted by the Constitutional Court last Wednesday for appointing Pichit Chunban as a minister. Pichit Chunban was sentenced to jail term for contempt of court around 16 years ago. But when Sethar appointed him as the minister, that was why Sethar was ousted by the Constitutional Court. And as for the details of who will be in the cabinet, the coalition parties are scheduled to submit the list of cabinet members by tomorrow, and the full list of cabinet members is expected to be finalized within this week. And speaking of Paetongtarn, there are still challenges ahead for the new leader and also the new government, even though it's still led by the Pheu Thai Party. If we remember, the international media talked about how Paetongtarn is the youngest daughter of Thaksin Shinawatra. She has been described as a newcomer in Thai politics. But then she still has a lot of challenges that she has to navigate through. One of them is that the Pheu Thai Party itself is somehow losing popularity. And this is clearly shown from the elections last year when the Move Forward Party won the elections. And that was the very first time that the Pheu Thai has somehow lost the elections. But since the Move Forward Party could not secure the premiership, Pheu Thai then took over and formed its own coalition. But they joined hands with pro-Prayut Chan-o-cha parties, whether it's the Phumjai Thai Party, United Thai Nation Party, or the Palang Pracharat Party, to form a government. So you can see that there's already a challenge in the political stability and also the economic challenges ahead, because we all have to admit that the economic situation is not looking good at all. And with the new government in place, the big question right now is what will happen to the digital wallet scheme that has been much publicized during the Sethar administration. Previously, the caretaker finance minister Jolapan Wiwat has reassured that the digital wallet scheme will still continue because the new government will still be led by the Pheu Thai Party. However, there are some hints, though, that there might be some amendments and some reviews. Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra hinted yesterday that the digital wallet scheme may need to be reviewed due to the current economic situation, while offering assurance that economic stimulus policies must still continue. She also claimed that the situation has changed since the digital wallet scheme was initiated, so more study is actually needed, as well as ensuring compliance with the established rules of fiscal discipline. Paetongtarn also said that the scheme will have to be re-examined and discussed among the coalition parties. And to give you a recap, the Sethar administration launched the first stage of the scheme on August 1st, and the public registration through smartphones opened on August 1st, and so far millions of people have already registered for the scheme, and those who do not have smartphones can start to register on September 1st, and the disbursement of the 10,000 baht of digital money is scheduled for the last quarter of this year. And with the uncertainties of the policies, whether the digital wallet scheme will continue or whether there will be amendments or not, currently there are about 4 possible scenarios for the digital wallet scheme under the Paetongtarn administration. Some of the media have came out with 4 possible scenarios as for the future of the digital wallet scheme. So the very first scenario that could happen is that the digital wallet scheme continues as planned, as about 30 million of people have already applied for the digital wallet scheme. However, some of the critics say that this scenario might be possible, not because of how many people have applied for the scheme, but it's because Pheu Thai party may want to keep up to its promises that they made during the elections last year, and also to keep up with the policy statement that Pheu Thai has announced last year. So if they cancel the scheme, it will affect the party's popularity. So we might have to wait and see what Paetongtarn will say during the policy statement regarding the digital wallet scheme. But the second scenario is that the digital wallet scheme still continues, but with the budget being downsized. Keep in mind, though, that the budget has already been downsized from an initial 500 billion baht to fund the scheme. It has been downsized to about 450 billion baht. This was because they could not secure the funding from the BAAC, which is a state-owned bank. And in the same scenario, apart from downsizing the budget, they may also reconsider to give out the 10,000 baht cash to only 14 million people who are considered financially fragile instead of 50 million based on the original plan, so that the remaining budget can be used to stimulate investments and increase the country's competitiveness. The third scenario is that the scheme is postponed, and the possible reason for that is to ensure that the digital payment systems and their open loop system will be fully developed and ready for use when they start to disperse the 10,000 baht to those eligible for the scheme. And the final scenario that the government doesn't want to happen, of course, is to cancel the scheme. And if they do cancel the scheme, there are a few consequences that they may have to consider, whether it's the budget that they have announced already, and also what policy or scheme that they will use to replace the digital wallet scheme. If the government decides to cancel the scheme, the Secretary General of the National Economic and Social Development Council, or NESDEC, has suggested that the new government should develop economic stimulus measures and help low-income earners if the digital wallet scheme is scrapped. And whatever changes that they make, the government must still consult with the Finance Ministry and the Bank of Thailand as to what kind of measures would be appropriate, from where the funding will come from and the timing of the implementation as well. And this is already a challenge for the Paetongtarn administration, considering that the Pheu Thai-led government and the central bank has been tussling for a while now, especially with the economic policies, one of them being the interest rates. And another part was when Paetongtarn heavily criticized the central bank for being an obstacle to addressing economic issues. So here's another challenge. How will the Paetongtarn administration reconcile with the Bank of Thailand in order to continue addressing the economic challenges? So we will have to wait and see how the digital wallet scheme will continue under the Paetongtarn administration. And we just talked about Paetongtarn. Now let's talk about her father, Thaksin Shinawatra. Even though he's now a free man, there's still another case waiting for him, which is his lèse majesté charges. Former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra said today that he's not overly concerned about his trial on lèse majesté charges, as he reported to the criminal court for a pre-trial hearing this morning. Thaksin, who has been released from parole by an amnesty decree, told reporters that the lèse majesté charge was filed against him after the coup in 2014, adding that he thought it was a decision by the authorities at the time to enforce the law. The lèse majesté charge is a result of his remarks he made during an interview with South Korean media in 2015, which were deemed to defame the monarchy. When asked by a reporter as he entered the court whether his yellow polo shirt was sending a message, he responded by saying that the message was already clear. Let's have a listen.
ไม่มีอะไรมากเพราะว่าเป็นเรื่องของธรรมดาคนไม่ถึงรู้เลยเป็นคดีที่เกิดขึ้นช่วงหลังการปฏิวัติใหม่ก็คงเป็นการใช้กฎหมายกระชับไม่มีอะไรต้องมั่นใจไม่กังวลเลยวันนี้เตรียมความพร้อมคดีเลยครับไม่มีปัญหาวันนี้เห็นใส่เสื้อสีเหลืองมาด้วยมีสัญลักษณ์อะไรไหมคะ
And based on his answer, the message was clear behind the yellow polo shirt. And members of the media were not allowed into the court building for security reasons. And it has been reported that about 70 court and metropolitan police officers were deployed at and around the court to maintain the security in that area. And the pre-trial hearing today is intended to allow both the public prosecutor in charge of the case and the defendant and his legal team to examine the evidence presented by the two parties. Hearings will be set by the court when both parties and the court agree on dates convenient to all parties involved. And so far, it has been reported that the first witness hearing on Thaksin's lèse majesté case will start from July 1st next year. So even though it's going to be next year, we will have to wait and see how this will end. And now let's turn to Chiang Rai as the northern province remains flooded due to continuous heavy rainfall, and many of the nearby provinces are facing the same issue as well. So as you can see the pictures right now, the temple in Thailand's northern province of Chiang Rai was completely flooded during the past weekend as a result of continuous rainfall and runoffs. And Paetongtarn district, where this temple is located, is one of the most affected districts in Chiang Rai, as the floods there were actually measured to be about 1 meter high, and that's really affecting tons of people there. And this temple you're seeing right here is heavily affected to a point where abbots had to perform their religious duties on their boats. And so far in Paetongtarn district, over 400 households in the district have been affected by the floods, and including 160 hectares of the rice crops are also affected as well. And as you can see, the bird's eye view of this footage, you can see how the floods have damaged the rice crops in the district and also nearby districts in Chiang Rai as well. And many of the villagers had to rush through the floods to go to places or even to just get food and water that were offered by the local officials. And if you got to see some of the social media clips beforehand, some of the villagers had to carry their babies on their backs as they walked through the floods as well. You can see that the floods are affecting people, businesses, restaurants, schools, and many other locations as well. And another location that is heavily affected by the floods is Sai Lom Joy Market in Masai district, which flooded for the 4th time during the past 2 weeks. However, the market itself is back to business today, with many of the vendors encouraging visitors to buy their products as they were severely affected by the floods. And this is not only in Chiang Rai. And you can see that the market has been flooded for a few times already since the province has experienced heavy rainfall and continuous runoffs as well. And even though the situation seemed to have improved, but there are still some bad news for Chiang Rai and nearby provinces such as Phayao and Mae Hong Son as well, because so far the meteorological department forecasted that heavy rainfall in the northern provinces will continue until next Thursday. So if you're in Chiang Rai or nearby provinces and if you've been affected by the floods, please stay safe. All right, and that wraps up tonight's edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. Join us every Monday and Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Thai PBS World's Facebook and YouTube Live. And don't forget to follow us on social media, including our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates about Thailand as well as analyses. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Sawasdee ka.